I tell him that yes, it does make sense. He smiles and reminds me for a second of Adam. But Roger's definitely cuter. I wonder why I didn't notice it before. I'm suddenly embarrassed about how badly I behaved during our history project. I can't apologize to Mango anymore, but at least I can apologize to Roger. Before I get the chance, one of the guys in our class comes bounding up the bleachers. "Hey, Mia, can you tell me what color my name is?" "I don't know," I answer haltingly. "What's your name again?" "It's Doug," he says, puffing out his chest. "As in Doug, captain of the soccer team?" Roger rolls his eyes, and I stifle a laugh. I concentrate for a minute. I know from memory the colors of the individual letters in his name, but I can't visualize them together to know what the word would really look like. And litter. My heart sinks. I tell him his name is hot pinkish purple, since that's the color of the D. "But that's so girly," he says, clearly disappointed. "Sorry," I tell him. "It doesn't mean anything." Doug shakes his head sadly and then leaps back down the bleachers, 2 rows at a time. I turn back to Roger. "You know, I think you're the only person left in the school who hasn't asked me the color of their name." He doesn't seem surprised. "Whatever color it is wouldn't matter anyway." "What do you mean?" "I'm colorblind," he declares. It suddenly all makes sense, and I start laughing. "You think it's funny that I'm colorblind?" No. It's just that... Is that why your socks never used to match?" He starts laughing too. "Yeah, I was too stubborn to let my mom pick them out for me. I got over it, though. Now she ties them together." "We're some pair," I tell him. "You don't see enough colors, and I see too many. Well, I used to anyway. Now they're gone." His eyes widen in surprise. "Will they come back?" I tell him I don't know, as the teacher blows the whistle for us to go to the locker rooms. Roger and I stand up, and before we head off in different directions, he says, "You're right about one thing." "What's that?" "We're some pair." He turns away before I can see his face and hobbles down the bleachers. I watch him go. For that brief moment, my heart lifts and I almost feel happy. But then Mango's little furry face appears in my head, and it hits me like a punch in the stomach that he won't be waiting on my bed for me when I get home today. After school, I ask the secretary in the main office if anyone in the school has the last name Henkel. She says there's a Hansley and an O'Henry, but no Henkel. I'm not sure anymore why I want to find Billy. Am I hoping I can help him, or that he can help me? I make it through the week with recurring pangs of pain and loss and guilt, and after dinner on Friday night, I put on the pajamas that I plan to stay in for the rest of the weekend. Jenna has invited me to stay over her house, but I'm just not ready to have fun yet. Today was the first morning that Mango's death didn't crush me the second I opened my eyes. It actually waited until I had turned off the alarm and pushed down my covers. Dad said that any progress is a good thing, but I still don't see the purple spirals that I used to see when my alarm went off. I admit it. I miss those purple spirals. And I haven't been able to go into the backyard since Mango's funeral. The phone rings around 7 o'clock, and my dad tells me to pick it up in the living room. It's Jerry, calling from his lab. "You hanging in there?" he asks. It's good to hear his voice. "I guess so," I tell him, plopping down in my dad's new reclining chair. It was a birthday present from Mom. "You're a strong girl, Mia. You'll get through this." "If I'm so strong, then why are all my colors gone?" He doesn't answer right away. When did that happen? Right after Mango... After he died. How do you feel about it? Empty, I tell him honestly. Flat. That's normal, he assures me. I'm having a hard time getting used to people calling my actions normal. Your colors will return, Mia. I promise. And you'll feel three-dimensional again. Try doing something creative to jumpstart your brain a little. You told me you like to paint. Why don't you try that? I agree to try, even though I haven't been able to even look at my paints lately. After we hang up, I go back to my room and stare at my easel. There's a thin layer of dust on it. I'm still torn between wanting my colors back and feeling like it's an appropriate punishment that they're gone. I decide to leave it up to fate. If they come back, it won't be because of anything I actively do. I pick up the wooden easel with one hand, fold up the legs, and bring it over to my closet. I have to push aside a lot of junk to make room for it. And I suddenly find myself staring at the painting I did of Grandpa. I hadn't given it much thought after the rain ruined it. I reach in, carefully pull it out, and lean it up against my wall. Something is different. I kneel down to look closer. I distinctly remember when I finished painting it that Grandpa had a faraway look in his eyes. But now, he looks almost content. I definitely don't remember painting him that way. I feel a stab in my heart when I look on Grandpa's shoulder and see the gray smudge that was once Mango. Then my heart starts beating faster as I notice paw prints on the painting from where Mango walked across it. The paw prints lead right off the top of the canvas and, I imagine, straight up to heaven. I don't think I need to offer him there myself anymore. I think Grandpa did it for me. Maybe Mango was Grandpa's parting gift to me, and now they're in heaven together with Grams. I really, truly want to believe that. I wrestle a frame off another old painting from the back of my closet and put the blurred portrait in it. I hang it in the center of the wall, opposite all my clocks, so it will be the last thing I see when I go to bed and the first thing I see when I wake up. The doorbell rings early Saturday morning, and I roll over in bed, certain that it's not for me. But 2 minutes later, my mother comes in and tells me to get dressed because I have company. Is it Jenna? I ask, pushing myself up on my elbows. No. Believe it or not, it's that woman I met at the supermarket at the end of the summer. Remember? You were talking to her little boy. Their last name's Henkel, I think. I throw off my covers and race across the room to my dresser. My clothes from yesterday are conveniently still crumpled on my chair, and I quickly pull them on. I guess you do remember, my mother says, picking up the pajamas I left in the middle of the floor. How did they find us? I ask breathlessly. Her daughter goes to your school. Judging from how Zach's fawning over her, I think this is the babe he was talking about at dinner the other night. I grab a ponytail holder from my night table drawer and tie back my hair. A minute later, I'm standing in the living room. Billy jumps out of the recliner and gives me a big hug, while his mother watches from the couch. She looks slightly embarrassed. Maybe because the last time we saw each other, she was rude to me in the elementary school gym. I'm sorry to barge in on you like this, she says, glancing from me to my mother and back to me. But we were in the neighborhood and, well, Billy seems to have this attachment to you, and I thought maybe you could help us. Just then, the babe walks out of the kitchen, with Zach trailing right behind her. She's holding a big glass of orange juice, and Zach looks proud, as if he squeezed it himself. She stops when she sees me, causing Zach to bump right into her. I don't think he minded. "This is my daughter, Amy," Mrs. Henkel says. My first thought is the rhyme from my morbid poster. A is for Amy, who fell down the stairs. My second thought is that I know her. She's the girl who was so obnoxious to me in the cafeteria when people first found out about my colors. She said I'd wind up in a special class. Instead, I wound up hiding in a bathroom stall because of her. "We've met," I say stiffly. But wait a second. I checked if anyone at school had Billy's last name, and no one did. "Amy still uses my ex-husband's name," Mrs. Henkel explains. Amy's cheeks flush pink as she turns toward me. "I'm, sorry about, well, you know," she says. "It's okay," I mutter, without really meaning it. Billy wraps his arms around my leg as Mrs. Henkel pushes herself up from the couch. "Amy told me that letters and numbers have color for you," she says to me. "And I realized you were trying to tell me about it a few weeks ago. Ever since Billy met you, this color thing is all he talks about." Billy nods happily, and I smile at him. Smiling is starting to feel less foreign. "So what do you think I should do?" she asks, sounding helpless. "His kindergarten teacher is talking about putting him in a special class next year because of this." I glance at Amy, who looks away. "There's nothing wrong with Billy," I tell Mrs. Henkel. "I've met other people who have synesthesia. That's what it's called. And they're totally fine." Billy is busy fidgeting with the lever that turns the chair into a recliner. I don't know how much of this conversation he understands, but I think on some level he's aware that this is a turning point for him. Mrs. Henkel is still not convinced. "But isn't there anything to treat this disease?" Zach steps forward before I can respond. His eyes are blazing. "My sister does not have a disease. She has a gift." I gape at him gratefully as he steps back next to Amy, who has a new look of respect in her eyes. I don't think many people stand up to her mother. "What color is my name, Mia?" Billy asks gleefully, breaking the moment of silence. "Your name is light brown like wood, with some sky blue sprinkled in," I reply, kneeling next to him. "And it's sort of mushy." "Like oatmeal?" he asks hopefully. "Just like oatmeal." "No, it's not," he says, laughing and bouncing in his seat. "It's bright pink and shiny like my granddaddy's head." Mia," my mother says, "does this mean your colors are back?" I stand up with a start. The words in my head are in color again, and I didn't even notice it. I excuse myself and run upstairs to check out my alphabet poster. Good old sunflower yellow A, shimmering green J, robin's egg blue Z. They're all back. The experience feels so familiar and so foreign at the same time. I think it's because so much has changed. I have no idea how to be this new person. I head back downstairs. "Thank you for your time," Mrs. Henkel says to my mom and me as she hands Billy his jacket. "You've given me a lot to think about. Amy is cheering at a school basketball game, so we have to go now." Zach looks stricken. "But Amy said she wanted to see my McDonald's chart. It'll only take a minute."